Sometimes to truly make a change, you have to do something big, something dramatic, and something that ensures that you never go back to the emotional and physical traps that have made you so unhappy. One of the best days of my life was the day I smashed my scale. I loved it so much, I think we should all do it. And to make rejecting diet culture even more exciting, I'm giving away free advice and prizes, including a full year of body kindness coaching with me. So to join, visit bodykindnessbook.com/BK Scale Smash. That's bodykindnessbook.com/BK Scale Smash. There, you give your name and email, and you'll get the motivational coaching from me. Lots of ideas for how you can participate right there on the page. And I look forward to joining you all summer long while we work together to just tell the world that we don't need scales, we don't need judgment, we don't need criticism. What we need is body kindness. Hey guys, it's Rebecca. Before we get into this month's update with Bernie and Rebecca, I just wanted to offer a content and language advisory. If you are around little people with wandering and ears and curious minds, aka children, or you're in a public setting, you may just want to grab a set of headphones before listening in. And hope you enjoy the show. Because real health is about being good to yourself. It's time for Body Kindness, the place where all bodies fit and weight is just a number. Hi, I'm Rebecca Scritchfield, author of the book Body Kindness, registered dietitian, nutritionist, and host of this podcast. Plus, once a month, I check in with my good friend Bernie Salazar, the season 5 at-home winner of NBC's The Biggest Loser, and another former chronic dieter, on how we're doing at our own body kindness practice for mutual support and accountability. Bernie, it's time for us to do our check-in. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I want to go ahead and say hi to all the listeners out there. I'm so excited to be back. It feels like it's been quite a while, and I miss everybody.
And I miss you too. So yeah, I guess I wanted to first recap. So in May, I had my month guest sexperts, we should call them.
Nice. I did.
Just different folks coming on. And we, I basically took the whole month to theme out the intersections of body kindness and sexual health. So what inspired me was that May was actually National Masturbation Month.
I did not know that. I'll be sure to mark that on my calendar.
Exactly.
Next May.
Although I don't think you have to wait till next year in order to celebrate. Yes. So anyway, I have my 7th, 8th grader permagrin on right now. So anyway, very maturely, we had these adult conversations. It really there was kind of an evolution. So we started with Peggy Orenstein, who is the author of Girls and Sex best-selling book, plus her other bestseller, Cinderella Ate My Daughter. And that's a great podcast, really, that helps us to understand how the culture primes girls for that, sex is risky, so the conversation is avoid, fear, all these things, / your body is not for your own enjoyment. Your body is there to bring other people pleasure. So it's a very interesting conversation. I love her book. I highly recommend it. And actually, as a dad to a daughter, you might like Cinderella Ate My Daughter too, which is kind of all about the pink and pretty culture. And again, not that because my girls love pink, it's not to absolutely reject all things pink, but to understand as a parent how these gender norms are reinforced through everything. Why are girls' shorts so short? Why do they make pink kitchen Legos or even the Duplo blocks, but then for boys, it's structure and construction and airplanes and, just why are there so many differences and how to kind of bridge those intersections.
Yeah. And I wish the listeners could see us, because I'm nodding my head in agreement, being the father of a daughter. I mean, these are things that are extremely important to me. I had thought about them before, but, it really brings it more to the forefront when you are raising a little girl. And you're absolutely right. It's something that I'm constantly aware of everything from what I dress her in myself when she's with on daughter daddy days to the things that we purchase for her entertainment or educational benefit. So let's just talk sports teams really quick.
Let us talk sports teams.
Just for a second. I go and I buy a Cubs hat or a Bears hat. I'm a Chicago fan. So, you have the little toddler hats and you have the boy ones that are the team colors. And then you have the girl ones that are, pink or shiny or, and I dig pink and shiny. Like I'm a pink and shiny kind of guy. Like I'm good with that. But when it comes to sports teams, it's like I don't want my daughter in pink and shiny stuff. I want her to represent in the same way that anybody else would, So these are all things that I think are super important. I can't wait to pick that book up. I think it's going to be tremendous in helping me as a father empower her, especially when it comes to her body. And the last thing I want is for her to ever think that her body is for somebody else's pleasure. I want her to enjoy herself and everything that she brings to the table first and foremost.
Well, it's interesting because I forget the exact percentage, but it was very low. She did these interviews and basically a very, very low percent of girls ever had a meaningful conversation with their dads about sex and sexual health. And
definitely want to change that, and it's awkward, right? I mean, especially when it's your little girl, when it's a little boy, for, guy to, dad to his son, it's more like, I mean, typically what the media has taught us, or shown us is that it's a couple grunting, a couple slaps on the shoulders. This is what you do to stay protected. And, but that's definitely,
we don't really go there and we're the adults,
Yeah,
and I think that's the whole point is that we didn't get the right support when we were younger. And so we're perpetuating the cycle. And that's kind of the whole point for the whole theme, of the entire month was that there is a stigma around sexuality and sexual health. And there's so much diversity around it. And why pleasure is taboo for women and why it shouldn't be. And I think it all goes back to why it's awkward for a parent to have a conversation, even if it is the same gender. It's, if it feels awkward, this idea of having conversations with your kids, it's like, well, you really got to think about the potential benefits that you could be providing because it's part of our well-being, Well,
what was really cool about the way that it was introduced to me was, I am the son of a single mother and that my mom happens to be a nurse. So I have to say it was an awesome conversation. Sure, it was awkward, but it wasn't because of my mom or the way the subject matter was introduced. It was just because I was young and it was awkward.
Right.
But the way she put it was great. She did talk about, our body and the responsibility we have to ourselves and responsibility that we have to others should we ever choose to, engage in, sexual activity with someone else. She talked about protection. She talked about the emotional aspect of it. So it was really great. Now, granted, I was about 10 or 11.
Right.
I remember telling her, I think I'm a little young for this. Like, I'm not even grabbing on myself here yet, Mom. But I think that she was so nervous, in her own right that she was like, let me just go ahead and let's talk this through from the beginning. But what was nice about it is it wasn't one of those like one-hit conversations. Like it was something that was introduced early on and that was not taboo in my family. And what was emphasized was the tremendous amount of responsibility that you have to someone else should you choose to, share that with somebody. And that was really cool. What we didn't talk about was masturbation. What we didn't talk about was too much of our role and our pleasure in that. And, with my daughter, I want to make sure that my wife and I are on the same page and that we're sharing with her the best way to understand that, is her body first and her feelings, her emotions should be the most important thing in that. And then, go from there.
Yeah. Well, I can recommend at least one book. So like toward the end, Peggy was just like giving me a laundry list of books that I needed to get for my girls based on their ages. And of course I would like Amazon Prime those like ASAP. And Andy's like, what the hell is this? So one of them I'm reading right now, and it's just so funny how different different we are. Like he'll like, okay, I'm going to go watch baseball now. But the book is called It's Not the Stork.
Oh.
And it's really, I mean, I think on the outside, I want to say it says ages 4 and up. And so Audrey is turning 5 and Isla is 3. But they both, I mean, they have a short attention span. So we kind of go through a few pages, but they know about the book. The first time I did it, it was definitely like, okay, take a deep breath. And it was like, because it goes through like, we have a lot of parts that are the same, right? And then it's like these cute cartoons. And it's like, next thing you know, like the little girl is standing in front of the mirror and like sticking her butt out, you know, and the boy is, and it points to like anus, you know?
I'm gonna have to look in. Just because, you know, I mean, so my background, and you know this, well, you know, elementary education, and I love children's books. Like I love them. And one thing that Jen and I, my wife, talked about was we want to just be really honest with Bennett. And so any question that comes up, we want to make sure that we're honestly addressing, you know, in an age appropriate way. But I don't want to say, what's a good example? Like, if you don't hurry up, you know, a monster is going to get you. Like, oh, a monster is not going to get you, you know, like, but we do need to get somewhere on time. Or, you know, if I say we're going somewhere, then that's where we go. And I don't want to use certain things as a reward. Like, hey, if you do this, you know, then we can go to the park. It's just, hey, it is what it is. And we try to be as honest as possible. So I don't know what that conversation or when that conversation is going to look like. That's why I think a book that you're talking about is going to be really interesting for me to kind of dive into a bit, just so I can maybe get some different tools in my tool belt for when the question's coming. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And you're behind me as far as age wise. So you have some time, but it is interesting because like now they can, you know, when we get to the comparison, like they can name the parts and we're just very neutral about it. Or like, I think Isla, the younger one the other day said, my vagina's on the outside. I'm like, no, your vulva's on the outside. Your vagina's on the inside. And like, honestly, like in my mind, I'm like the 9th grader, like, tee-hee, da-da. But I know that my role is, I mean, they are so young. It is not perverted. You're literally, and like Peggy said, like, she's like, you would never not name the elbow. She's like, you tell your kids this is your elbow. And she's like, both boys and girls understanding, you know, this is vulva, this is clitoris, like it's just names. And so anyway, that is a interesting book.
That's a great point. I love that. I like the comparison of, you know, we're not going to not point out the fact that this is a knee. And that's what I think is important, even from an educational standpoint, is just really making sure that we're equipping them with the right information and we're not keeping anything from them or making it taboo by not discussing it.
Right.
And that's what I want to make sure happens with her for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's the point is that, I mean, no matter where you're at as a parent, it's a good time to start and you need to figure out what you need to be talking about because you might be surprised, you know, of what you've missed so far. But I know for me and my young kids' ages, it's very much, it's just basic body awareness and basically this understanding of like where babies come from. So it has this really interesting picture and like they're at the movies and it's like hungry, pregnant mom. And it shows popcorn goes in the stomach and here's where the baby is because how many people say, oh, you have a baby in your belly and they don't understand, you know, well, where does the food go and all this? So just really basic, interesting things. And I have to laugh because we read the book a little bit last night and there's a picture, you know, and I skip over stuff. Like it's just kind of whatever, you know, and but there's this picture where it's like where babies come from. And I don't know exactly what's around it, but it's a picture of like a man's laying down, the woman's on top of her and they're underneath the covers. And it's like, you know, when people, something like when they love each other, they want to get so close, like the man, you know, can even be inside her, something like that, you know. And and I wasn't even reading that. Isla just looks at the picture and goes something like, I'm not going to lay on top of that man or I'm not going to lay on anybody. And and it was funny because at first I was just like, oh, you know, like, because we weren't talking about her, but the fact that she was like placing herself in the story, I thought was interesting. And I just kind of glossed over it, you know, like, oh, okay. It was like, she's 3. I didn't have to engage in a full conversation about, well, one day when you're older, you might da da da. It was just, she was just saying a statement. And I said, oh, okay. Now let's look at this, So I think that's the other thing as parents is that early ages on, it's basic information and education. A book can be helpful to guide you, to make it neutral. There's all these other experts who were part of it. Again, the book's called It's Not the Stork, and Peggy Orenstein recommended it. And then you can decide as a parent how often you look at it, the types of conversations you have with it, when it does make sense to actually go there because it's an education opportunity, and when you could just kind of gloss over the comment. And like anything else, it's like practicing exposure to it also practices your own discomfort. So as they get older, they know their parts and they don't need, they know like how to better respect their bodies. And so when the conversation goes to masturbation or when the conversation goes to sex, it's building off of each other. And so I definitely, how is all this is body kindness is really that, I think, well, culturally, we're taught that there's one image of what healthy and good and attractive is, but many people who are chronic dieters, who deal with body image issues, they have a deprivation of allowing their bodies to seek and feel pleasure. And this lack of pleasure can actually perpetuate more body image problems or more I'm broken, more, they could be in their 40s or beyond before having their first orgasm, faking it and all this stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. I just think that, there's a lot more stuff going on in our culture that relates to our body image issues and our sexual well-being that is very much upheld by our diet culture. And it's like, if we're not willing to bring our bodies pleasure, right, then of course it's going to continue to feel like our bodies aren't good or our bodies don't work or we don't know what we're doing. And it can create a lot of. So one of the other guests was Elle Chase, and she has a book called Curvy Girl Sex. And she talked about, I had lots of bad sex, so you don't have to.
Oh my.
And it's like these positions and stuff. And it was just like, no matter what shell your body is in, no matter what you have going on, you can seek pleasure and receive pleasure. And really how it's, part of your overall health and well-being. And then it was nice because we had Melissa Fabello come in, who's a sexual health scholar and sexuality scholar, who basically also said there are people that may just be very low on sexuality and they don't need like lots of sex or lots of pleasurable experiences, and that there's nothing wrong with them either. So it's kind of more showing the diversity in that. But people who tend to struggle with eating disorders and body image issues tend to lack wanting to be touched, tend to lack wanting positive connection between their bodies and, themselves or even other people. And then that is kind of is part of their trauma that in a way can get in the way of true health and well-being, true liberation, true body appreciation. So it was certainly a challenging month for me to just kind of consistently focus on sex and sexual health and everything like that and share some personal stories and everything. But I mean, I think it was important work and important conversations. And I just really hope that listeners kind of got out that no matter where you are, it's okay to be there, but also try to be curious about what you want for your well-being when it comes to pleasure and touch, and certainly try to avoid dry spells if you can. That if you know that this is something that is good in your life, that it wouldn't be surprising to see a lack of pleasure, whether it's through masturbation or sex, be associated with not wanting to exercise or not wanting to eat well or more drinking or more emotional eating, that there's a connection between how you feel about your body and your choices. And certainly sexual health can also help you feel better about your body too. Certainly helps you feel good in the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree on all fronts. I think that, from the male perspective, at least my perspective is it's very important. I think that as men, we don't, or we're not taught to really self-explore. I mean, it's understood, right? Everybody kind of grunts about it in a locker room and, jokes about it but.
You mean like it's dirty, like masturbation is dirty, whether it's men or women, or don't talk about it?
I mean, my experience with masturbation, at least in the locker room, not actually masturbation in the locker room. The conversation surrounding masturbation, let's say in a male setting, is, yeah, whatever, yeah, sure, they'll throw out some expletive and yeah, that's fine, and of course, yeah, you do it and no big deal. It's almost, at least, and again, that was just the conversations around it that I encountered early on, even in, mid high school. It was like, okay, whatever. And no one would ever admit to doing it, but it was more like it wasn't as taboo. But, never have I had a conversation about the importance of it or taking the time to find, what's pleasurable for you or, again, the benefits that could come of it. It was just something that wasn't talked about. Sure, maybe it was assumed that it was being done. But.
Ooh, I have a question. Is it ever like, do you think any of it is ever like, oh, if you masturbate, that means you're not getting any and there's something wrong with you? Like, is that kind of like a guy's thing or is that not really it?
I didn't hear too much of that.
Okay.
I think that, so what I did come across is, men, it's almost okay for us to be sexual, talk about that stuff. So whether it's masturbation or being with somebody, it's like, that's what we do, insert the grunt, I never heard conversations about, again, the importance of exploration or the fact that it wasn't just about the end goal of the orgasm or, that just wasn't something that is really talked about at all.
I see.
Women, I didn't know women, masturbated until I was older. I mean, it's not something, with a guy, it's like, oh, that guy, and excuse my language. Yeah, he's going to go jack off and this and the whatever. But never heard of a woman doing that. Like, I didn't know. First time I, was aware that women masturbate too. My question was like, well, how? It was just, that's how clueless I was. What does that look like was the curiosity for me, because there's at least in my experience, was a very male way of masturbating. Granted, I'm a male, but even in society as a whole, there's these, funny scenes in movies or just, people are more likely to be okay with not talking about, but accepting the fact that men masturbate.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point.
But at the same time, though, Rebecca, a lot of the emotion or just the goodness in it and the importance of that self-exploration is also taken away, I feel, from us as males.
Yeah.
Because of that outlook as well.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like, I think that overall, what is the most helpful viewpoint is that I can connect to my body with or without a partner, right? And when there's a partner in the room, it could be a different experience and different goals, right? More about connecting with somebody else and, giving pleasure and receiving pleasure. But it's like this idea of that there may not be a partner in your life. Your partner may be tired and not into it. You might be traveling. Who knows? And so I guess it's just, I would say that there was definitely a taboo around masturbation, not even just growing up, but even now. Like, I don't know why the word like slutty is coming to mind, but I would guess that culture would be like, ooh, you masturbate? Like, that's so slutty. Why can't you get a guy? Or, and it's just, and that's kind of the whole point, like the labels.
That's interesting too, because what I've heard out there, and again, these are my experiences, so I would love to hear what our listeners or I would love for listeners to chime in on this one. But what you do is you're right with the whole, well, women can get someone whenever they want, a guy, especially an overweight, not societally, looked upon as
conventionally attractive person.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, of course you're going to masturbate. Yeah, like that's your only option, dude.
Yeah.
When it comes to women, it's almost like, well, all they have to do is just pretty much, just wave at somebody, and if they want to, that's going to happen for them. That was kind of what you thought of, which, again, it's interesting. So in relation to body kindness and what's going on there, and being or having lived life at a larger size, masturbation and sex was definitely something that, although the conversation was embraced and introduced well in my house, it was something that, again, on a societal level was very awkward, for me. And that's something that, again, had to do with perception and image issues and of course, body issues that we had. This topic, Rebecca, was when we introduced it, of course, you kind of just get flush at first. And then, I've been thinking about it quite a bit, and I was affected tremendously by my body image issues in relation to sex in general. Self-exploration was not something that I did regularly. I was a very late bloomer when it came to that. And I don't think it was because it wasn't something that I was interested in. It was more like, oh gosh, this is, it is taboo, or, not even as a male, not necessarily finding yourself attractive, even from early age.
That's interesting. So it's like this is just another thing that's going to give me anxiety. This is another thing that I could be not good at, or another thing I could fail at. So it's like the inner critic is keeping you avoiding seeking pleasure.
Well, yeah, definitely that. And then it goes back to the whole taboo, like, well, if you're a big guy and you're not conventionally attractive, then this is what you're going to be subject to the rest of your life. So don't.
So masturbation is the punishment. Yeah. You're not going to get a relationship. So masturbation is the punishment. That's what you're relegated to, basically.
Yeah, it's almost like our fallback plan. It's like, well, if all else fails, you have yourself.
Right. So in the name of body kindness, we need to reclaim masturbation for one and all, regardless of appearance.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think for the male listeners out there, I think it would be great for, us guys to really start thinking about ourselves in that process, not just masturbation, but even when it comes to sex. I know that, typically everyone thinks that the guy's just in it for themselves or, I think, especially coming from a larger guy perspective, we talk about body image. Gosh, I know that I have a wonderful wife and life partner. And I think that, our openness and able to talk about our body image issues and how we're working through them and just have very meaningful conversations about what we need has really been so beneficial in me growing and accepting who I am, not just inside the bedroom, but outside. And if you have, I'm speaking to our female listeners out there, I think, listen, us guys, we are slow, but that doesn't mean that we can't catch up with some great guidance. I think it'd be great to kind of say and start that conversation and say, hey, listen, this is what I was thinking, this is what works for me. This is where I'm at. These have been my experiences. Have you thought about what your experiences have been like? And I don't want to shift the conversation to, again, our female listeners trying to figure out what's good for our male listeners. I'm just talking about a meaningful conversation between partners.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And have that conversation outside of the bedroom.
And I don't want to exclude our same-sex couples. Forgive me. But I think those conversations, if we can help to promote those conversations and talk about maybe some of the things that made us nervous in the past, or maybe were roadblocks to us receiving pleasure from either ourselves or a partner, because you can, definitely feel alone even with a partner, and you need to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah, no, I think that's all really good.
In relationship, you can feel alone. So I'm just chiming in because, and I'm hoping that I'm hitting on different listeners. Maybe I'm just nuts, but, you could even feel alone with a very great partner if you're not opening up and expressing yourself and sharing, maybe not sharing right away with your partner, but just opening up to yourself a little bit more so.
Right. If what's going on in your mind which is likely to happen if you struggle with body image issues, but like excessive body checking or rumination on, it's hard for you to focus on letting your body receive pleasure when you are stuck inside your head, body checking, body bashing, saying, that you don't even deserve to have this attention right now or anything else like that. It's hard to be in the moment, and it's hard to focus on and even figure out what you like, and then let alone be able to communicate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's also the performance factor, right? And the different roles of performance there. So like men are supposed to be this performer and like, whether it's, I don't know, like rough and just all that sort of, crazy shit, right? And then women are supposed to always have a vaginal orgasm. And the reality is many women are faking because most orgasms are not done through intercourse. And so nobody wins in that scenario.
No, absolutely. And my thing is, how fun would it be to be able to have a great conversation with your partner and work with them to be able to figure out what first and foremost does it for oneself, but then for your partner as well, and that could be a really good thing.
Yeah. Yes, so, everybody's happy, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I think that, if we're able to kind of tear down some of the taboo around it, even as adults, then maybe we are going to be doing some good stuff here in this episode of our body.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me, like, Andy and I this year will be married 12 years.
Awesome.
15. Yes, 12 years. I had to count a little bit. And yeah, it's just, it's so different from the dating phase. And, and you go in the marriage phase and then you have kids and it's like phases. And that's the beauty of life.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I'm grateful. It was the guise of like book research, but like when we had two like very young kids, I was like, oh, come with me to this sex and communication class. And it was actually good for both of us. And then it was like, we're in the store and we're like, oh, well, let's just walk downstairs and take a look, and it's like those people in the store, like it is literally a business. Okay, we got this kind of lube for this and this kind of lube for that. And it's just like no like shame about being a nursing mom who is dry, like it was just awesome. And then it's like, Reese and we will sometimes be like, hey, it's been a while. Like, that's just kind of where we're at. It's not that we don't love each other. It's not that we don't, with our travels or whatever, you do what you do to kind of get by. But it's like it's literally sometimes like an appointment, like, hey, we got to make sure this happens in the next day or two. And, we still have lots of other ways we express love, through touch and cuddling and kisses and just all these other ways that are also meaningful. It doesn't have to end in the orgasm, but
and I think you made a really good point. Affection and what brings you pleasure, both physically, mentally, spiritually, can look like a lot of different things. I know that, when you become a parent, where we're both at right now of young ones, time constraints are very real. Other responsibilities are very real. But, there's ways to still connect. And I know that ever since having my daughter, I am so attracted to my wife, but not just physically, but in so many other ways, because I was able to witness what her body is capable of. And, until you kind of step back and take that pause and really realize all that has transpired and how we've grown as a couple, I definitely find our conversations and our intimate moments just so much more meaningful as a result. And yeah, of course, they're fewer and far between, but not. And that's what's been really fun in my marriage, and especially since our baby was born.
Yeah, just enjoying the evolution, enjoying all the different ways connection and intimacy can take shape. And, I know you're we're all kind of working on our body image, at least I believe, at least I know I am, right? But, think of the evolution of your own body image and how you've been able to allow for more. As your body image heals, you're able to allow for more intimacy, and how more intimacy helps body image heal and everything like that. So for people who are struggling, it's like, trust me, you are not alone when you're in the bedroom and you got to have the lights out, or when you're in the bedroom and you're looking at your legs and you just can't stop those thoughts in your head criticizing your legs, or, like your mind could be completely somewhere else. And just know that that's where you need to be right now. But maybe working on, if you are at a point, first step, trying to understand your body better and what brings you pleasure. And like you were saying, what you like and don't like, do that work, even if your sex is not where it needs to be yet, because maybe you can work with your body image on even just exploring and being curious. And then that's going to put you in a better place, I think, than to take it into the bedroom and
I think
communicate it.
We often think of masturbation or something as a solo thing. I mean, and it's funny because...
Ooh, I like where you're going with this. Tell me more.
Yeah, well, I think as partners, we don't have those conversations about the fact that each one of us, is masturbating, and that's a good point to talk and communicate about. Of course, your mind is probably going towards, and that would be great, maybe masturbating together or in the same place or whatever works for you and your partner. But I think that just there being an understanding, and removing the taboo within your relationship that, hey, I'm going to go take a quick 10-minute break. I'll be back. We laugh, but I mean, that type of communication, I think, could just lead to a tremendous increase in intimacy that you experience when you are able to share those moments together.
Yeah. And I definitely think that we're at the point where we're past sort of hiding it from each other. It's not like, oh, I hope, I hope he rubs one out in the shower or something, but it's like, hey, you do what you got to do. It's communication. Do what you got to do. I do what I got to do. And I would say it's a problem when you would rather not have sex and would only rather pleasure yourself, because relationships, I mean, unless both agree they don't need sex, I think that's probably going to be par for the course. So it's I would say draw that line there where you kind of have a healthy balance of both. But I think ultimately understanding that, I guess for me, it's I want listeners to be happy with their sex life and their sexual health and well-being. And it's different things to different people, but that, there's not enough conversation around the idea that the thin ideal and diet culture and all this body oppression just encourages us to detach from our bodies, to not see it as something that deserves pleasure, to not want to work with our current body. And so we avoid these very things that could help bring about peace and liberation and good feelings.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think this was it was a good topic. Yeah, we missed it in May, but I mean, it's something that, again, I was just able to kind of think about in relation to my own experience and, even work through aspects of that. Because again, when it comes to guys, that's not something that, it seems like we touch on a lot of stuff that as a guy isn't typically shared. And I think that, this is another topic that fits right into that category of it's not really talked about or not really talked about how this relates to body kindness. And, for all my guy listeners out there, this is something that we definitely need to continue to explore. And I think that we need to try to do that without all the preconceived notions out there already. Kind of take it from a different standpoint. And I think that as men, we can grow into better men and hopefully better partners. That would be great.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm glad we had this talk, Bernie. Oh, goodness. Okay. So before we go, I just want to let you know that throughout the summer, we're going to be doing a body kindness smash your scale challenge, celebration, party. It's any number of things. And so I launched the scale smash video that I shot when we did the body kindness video. So that's out. I'll include the link there in the show notes. And basically, it could be the first email has gone out, but for folks who want to be involved in that, I'll include the link to it's a special sign up to be involved in the scale smash challenge. And anyone can do it. It's totally free. And you'll get on the emails that are encouraging you to focus on positive aspects of your body, enjoying your summer, really letting go of all the different types of labels in your life, not just scales, but the other ways that you measure and judge yourself. And there's going to be some cool prizes. So I look forward to you and I in the next time we talk, kind of talking about what we're seeing as scales and judgments in life and kind of different ways that we empower ourselves and each other to just go out and have fun regardless of diet culture, because it's not going to go away this summer. It's not going to go away this summer, but you can choose to make summer more free and more liberating by choosing to treat your body with love and kindness and rejecting the bullshit.
I love it. And I haven't told you this in a while because it's been a while since we've been together, but I really enjoy this podcast, not just being a part of it, but listening to it. And I applaud this challenge. And I hope that a lot of our listeners really take us up on this, because I'll tell you what, a lot of my life, unfortunately, and I'll admit it, was hindered by different scales. And it's taken us having these conversations, working through this, as well as, some significant and awesome life-changing events that have happened, both the loss of significant loved ones, but the gain of my child, to just kind of put it all aside and say, you know what, this is crap, and you need to live in today, and it doesn't matter what the outer package looks like. Let's not hinder some awesome life experiences that could come out of just being kinder to yourself.
I love that. Well, on that note, we'll wrap it up for now, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Till next time.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. I would love if you could take a minute and leave a rating and review on iTunes. I know they don't make it very easy, so I have a few quick tips for you. First, launch the Apple Podcast app, and then you're going to click the search button to enter the name Body Kindness, and you'll find my podcast. You'll see the album art. And when you click on the album art, there is going to be a button in the middle at the top that's called Reviews. Click that. And then when you scroll to the bottom, you will see an option to leave a review. And so you'll click that button and go ahead and write your thoughts. I also would love ideas for future episodes. You can email me, Rebecca@bodykindnessbook.com. Again, that's Rebecca@bodykindnessbook.com. I love chatting about the show and how it's helpful. And so keep those emails coming. And also, if you're not yet completed with the e-course, don't forget that's a free resource for anyone who's interested in practicing body kindness. If you visit bodykindnessbook.com and click on Get Started, just enter in your name and email and you'll get instant access. I'll see you there. Become a Body Kindness Insider. Visit bodykindnessbook.com and click on Get Started.